Cold season is approaching and you might be falling asleep in your warm bed every night. But over 1.2 million people in Europe are homeless, and that number keeps growing. This includes people who sleep on the streets or stay in shelters and temporary accommodation. So shouldn't a rich continent like Europe slowly get to grips with the problem? Finland is the only country in the EU where homelessness has been declining for decades. The key to success? All homeless people get an apartment. Sounds too simple to be true? In this video I'll explain why is the situation in Europe so critical and how does the Finnish model work. What's Europe's problem with homelessness? Two major problems are the ever-increasing rents and the fact that social housing spaces are just not enough. There can also be other causes of homelessness, such as fleeing from domestic violence, loss of a job, or inability to pay for needed healthcare. And how does Europe deal with it?
Punishing people for being homeless, stigmatizing them, arguing that it's a lifestyle choice.
Ruth Owen works at Franz, the European umbrella organization supporting homeless people.
We're putting spikes around our buildings and making public benches that nobody can sit down on. I don't think that there is appropriate ways for Europe to manage homelessness.
Ruth explains that many countries rely on short-term solutions, such as emergency accommodation, and some even criminalize homelessness. Are there better solutions? Let's have a look at Finland. The situation used to be much worse there too. We spoke to Juha Kahila. He works at the Y Foundation, an organization that builds and rents out housing. What attitudes did Finnish people have towards homelessness in the past?
So first, before getting home of their own, people should take care of their other challenges, mental health issues, substance abuse issues. We have many proofs that that doesn't work because it's impossible to take care of other areas of your life if you don't know where you are going to sleep next night. That was a complete mind shift and system change towards this housing first.
Housing first. That is the Finnish strategy. According to the strategy, housing is a foundation. When a person has a roof over their head, it is easier for them to focus on solving other problems they might be struggling with. NGOs and the government provide affordable apartments for homeless people, which they also build or renovate themselves. They offer the accommodation to those who need it. Employees of such organizations also actively approach homeless people. In addition to single apartments, there are also apartments in shared houses. People can share common rooms where they exercise or cook together. And social workers on site help people to find a job or recover from substance use. The following always applies. It is your own home. You can do whatever you want within the bounds of your four walls. There is no monitoring, even for drug use. But you also have to pay rent.
So people always sign permanent rental agreement. They pay the rent by themselves if they don't have a job. In Finland, we have a quite good social benefit system, so people can pay the rent with social benefits.
However, anyone who collects social welfare and doesn't pay the rent can also lose their home. Social workers do their best to prevent this from happening in the first place. And it certainly seems to work. In the 80s, there were over 17,000 homeless people in Finland. That's when some of the first housing assistance programs started. Housing First was officially launched in 2008, when there were still around 8,000 homeless people. In 2023, there were only around 3,500. However, homeless refugees who do not yet have the right to stay in Finland are not included in the statistics. So the actual numbers could be higher. We asked people on the streets of Helsinki if they think that there is an issue with homelessness in their country.
I mean, I just came back from Brussels and I saw a lot more people sleeping on the streets there.
Because I feel like there are many places that people who don't have their own home can go and get help.
And in Helsinki, it is a problem, but not, I think, as big as in other European cities.
Okay, so Finland is really making progress. But the strategy works only because the state has been trying to provide enough affordable housing and to put money into housing first. In the first 5 years, this amounted to 170 million euros. Juha Kahila's Y Foundation is also benefiting from such funds. Government subsidies have helped the organization to rent out over 18,000 apartments. There are now also far fewer emergency shelters, most of which have been converted into permanent housing. Sure, it might sound expensive for the state, but it also pays off in the long term. According to studies by the Y Foundation, around 15,000 euros are saved per person per year.
That's because people don't need to use the expensive emergency services as much. They don't end up doing jail time as often. They don't have encounters with the police officers as often.
Should other EU countries follow Finland's example? And is that realistic? In 2021, EU member states decided to take the issue more seriously and pledged to end homelessness by 2030. Some countries already focus on housing first strategies, for example, Denmark and Austria.
It doesn't necessarily need to look exactly the same in every place, but the idea that people who are homeless need a home first and foremost, and that some of them will need kind of long-term accompanying support, that's very much an idea that we subscribe to. And I think all the evidence shows that Housing First works.
Of course, further investments are needed to make it work. There are also waiting lists for Housing First in Finland. However, earlier this year, Finland's conservative government cut housing benefits and unemployment insurance. This could mean more evictions and an increase in homelessness in the next years. So, Housing First can work well, but it also needs politicians and aid organizations to cooperate and be willing to invest in social housing. What do you think of Housing First? Should your country follow the Finnish example? Feel free to tell us about it in the comments.